She thinks I'm ADHD.
I'm not sure anymore. You're something. I don't know what.
Yeah, I'm something.
You're something.
Well, definitely something. Yeah, I haven't thought of a category yet.
I mean, I call it the unholy trinity. All of our guests, because one could say, oh, they're all successful, they're all celebs. Yeah, but listen to their stories. Every single one brought with them a story of anxiety, depression, thoughts of suicide, some attempted suicide. And it's, what are we failing, to grasp with these individuals? You can't just dismiss everyone and say, oh, but they're ADHD and that's why, as if you're destined for that. It's about how we support these individuals, and I just think that remains lacking.
Blimey, I was expecting about 3 people.
No. These are your groupies right here,
Millions of
Paul.
you.
Look at them. Welcome.
Yeah. I'm not Bob Mortimer, you know that, don't you? I'm better than that.
Dr. Minna, look at your shoes.
I had to. I'm so short. I just wanted to elevate myself.
She's only about that high.
I am.
Please tell me you're going to do yoga in those legs.
I'd love to.
I want to see that.
I've played football in them before, and I scored.
She's done down dogging them as well. But we won't go into that.
No, it's a bit early for that,
Too
I would
early.
say.
This is the earliest gig I've ever done, bud. Wake me up in about 10 minutes.
Okay, we will. Welcome to the festival. I hope you have a really lovely day today. I love what you're doing as a couple, as a dynamic duo. I think your podcast is brilliant. I'm ADHD. No, you're not.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brilliant. You've had some amazing guests on. Robbie Williams, who was so open chatting to you guys.
Very generous.
And I really loved Serena and Roger Taylor, which was a recent one. I thought that was fascinating.
It was, and that means we've been to the houses of 2 of the richest people in the world. What did you nick? She always nicks some
Bog roll.
Biros, tea bags.
Right. Do they know this?
They do now.
But it's so brilliant. I love the conversations that you're having, but also, as you're a couple, I love that you quite frequently pee each other off during the interview.
You're surely not.
It's just a really fun little domestic to listen to. I like it.
Yeah, what was it Angela Barnes said? It was like being in the back seat of the car.
Yes.
And your parents are having the argument that's going to lead to the divorce in the front on your way to your summer holiday.
It's great. It's a really interesting thing to listen to. And obviously you're talking about big topics. You're talking about ADHD, formally. Dr. Minna, you were diagnosed at what age of ADHD?
43.
Surely not, darling.
So 3 years ago.
How am I doing?
Shut up.
Very good. I mean, like many of the women that you've interviewed on the podcast, there's misdiagnosis, there's, completely getting it wrong or ignoring it, certainly in childhood. And there are a lot of women, more specifically later on in life, getting these late diagnosis. What did that mean to you, and what led you to going to get that checked out in the first place?
It was my then therapist who suggested I might be ADHD, and the mere thought, shocked me deeply. I was like, what? But I had headphones on, chewing gum, book in one hand, foot bouncing. Well, what gives you that idea, And she said, well, look, I'm not interested in the labels, but might be something for you to pursue in the future. And when I was diagnosed, I hit top marks across the board, and
top marks.
I cried. I felt quite scared and angry and upset, but I also don't think it's the full picture for me, because there is early childhood trauma and the anxiety and the depression. I think that there's a lot of overlap there, and it's very difficult to pick up the thread and say, this is because of this is because of this. And, you also then have to go, well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It's 90% genetic. Hi, Mum, I've just been diagnosed. Best wishes and get well soon, but it's nothing to do with me. I'm like, really?
Best wishes?
Yeah,
best wishes.
She said,
kind regards and best wishes, daughter.
In Turkish, she said, geçmiş olsun, which means get well soon.
Right.
And I'm like, it doesn't work like that,
No.
love. So it's, difficult conversations were then had, and she softened to it and is now a bit more open, but she's nearly 80. What does ADHD mean to her? And she's survived all her life. I say with it, but life has been very difficult for her, and I'm trying to not make those mistakes as a mum but that might be another story. I don't know. There's a lot going on there. It's not. I don't think ADHD is my full picture. I think it's more about the complex trauma and.
I'm trying to interrupt.
Shut up!
And mansplain and talk over you.
Oh, I've got the
and
noise coming out. Oh.
Alan Hansen, he used to sit like that. He goes, "It's all about peace. It's all about peace."
Well, you've just ruined my pace.
No,
I don't know what I was saying.
And now it begins.
Yay!
No, what I was going to say, I was just going to pick up on that because the title of the podcast is I'm ADHD. No, you're not, because there are so many variables. And with you, I think your sort of very traumatic childhood either is sort of masks the fact that you're ADHD or triggers it. And that's something we're still debating, really, and trying to unpack. People say these days, don't they?
Yeah, they do say unpack. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
They do, don't they? Let's unpack that, shall we?
Let's unpack it and circle back to that.
By thinking.
Not fun. But it's such an interesting topic because it is quite newly discussed. You know, if we look back 20 years ago, this wasn't a thing. I'm not diagnosed, and we can all sit there and go, "Oh, some of it resonates. I feel like I could be." But for girls, especially in school, when you're a young kid, it could be, you know, looking out the window, daydreaming, and you were just the kid that was, you know, slightly not in the room. Whereas now we take a bit more time and care to go, oh, is there something going on there? Is that something we need to look into?
And I think that's why it's so important to be person focused before seeking a label anyway, because you could be ADHD and not get the support you need anyway. And I can speak to that as a parent and as a teacher and a lecturer. I didn't know I was ADHD at the time, let alone all my other flipping diagnoses. And I didn't know that my students were, some of them, but I knew that they all came from very traumatic backgrounds. So I met each one where they were, and that did look like chaos in the classroom a lot of the time. You know, there'd be some on the floor lying on their stomachs, shoes and socks off. Some would be leaning the pads on the wall. Some would be just outside. I'd take them to the green space that was local a lot of the time, just so that I could be, you know, present for them as a lecturer and as a caregiver, because a lot of them had defences that were really high. They struggled to stay focused in the classroom. So it is, again, I'm going to say, it's about meeting that person where they are. And I think there's a lot of resistance to ADHD and autism today. And, you know, at one end of the spectrum, you've got everyone's a bit ADHD today to it doesn't exist. Well, you know, the wiring is different. That is proven. It doesn't mean it has to be steeped in the narrative of deficits and struggle all the time. But again, I think that comes back to how we make, I don't even like the word accommodations, but how we make space for it meaningfully for that individual, be they a child or an adult, whatever. And I don't think society's good at that. They're not willing to just yet.
No.
Steps are being
I think
made,
it's bizarre that we expect 5-year-old children to sit in a classroom for any length of time. This is crazy, isn't
it?
It's mad. It is, though, isn't it? You know, what 5-year-old do you know, unless they've got a device. They're going to go, oh, I can't wait to sit down for 8 hours.
Exactly. But this is quite a Victorian sort of schooling system.
This comes back to the education system being too narrow, too bland, too unfit for purpose for anyone that has that spark of interest, that wants to learn in a way that is dynamic, and it's not forced upon them in this irrelevant curriculum that doesn't cater for their needs or their preoccupations. And that, you know, almost every single one of our guests was failed by the education system. They were bullied, they were kicked out, they didn't get the grades. Who didn't? Surprisingly, Sir Stephen Fry flourished after a while. But
is he ADHD? I didn't know that.
Oh, he's everything.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that. How interesting.
I mean, I call it the unholy trinity. All of our guests, you know, because one could say, oh, they're all successful, they're all celebs. Yeah, but listen to their stories. Every single one brought with them a story of anxiety, depression, thoughts of suicide, some attempted suicide. And it's, what are we failing, you know, to grasp with these individuals? You can't just dismiss everyone and say, oh, but they're ADHD and that's why, as if like you're destined for that. You know, it's about how we support these individuals, and I just think that remains lacking.
I think sometimes it feels like we're being critical of teachers. Absolutely not. Completely the opposite. You know, I think, you know, trying to sort of open up the education system and not make it not so sort of linear and crushing actually will be liberating for teachers.
Yeah.
Because what they have to do is try and keep
Control.
20, 30 kids, under control in a classroom, which we know is a false kind of hope, really.
Yeah.
So, as I say, I mean, I'm very supportive of teachers. My mum ended up being a teacher, so Min's a teacher. We're very supportive of teachers, but I think the system. We say, can we change the system to adapt to individual needs? It's not going to make it more difficult, weirdly, because you're not asking children to do something that's very unnatural. So hopefully that. I mean, I don't know. Everybody wants a share of the pie, don't they? But I mean, our children's education is obviously the most crucial thing.
It is.
I don't know if it's a mantra that people say a lot, but I've always said half the class size is double teachers' wages, and you'll get an extraordinary education system that ultimately can only produce people that are going to be beneficial for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
I just
Kids that are thriving.
flipping it upside down,
the pipe dream, maybe.
Your second round of applause.
Oh yeah.
Mortimer would never have thought of that, not in a million years. Or Enfield.
Paul, what have you learned through Minna's diagnosis and learning about ADHD and being with someone with ADHD? What have you learned about it?
And the rest of the diagnosis.
Well, like Minna says, Minna had a very traumatic childhood and a lot of complex trauma, PTSD, that have caused her many problems. So I'm sort of always been conscious of that. She thinks I'm ADHD.
I'm not sure anymore. You're something. I don't know what.
Yeah, I'm something.
You're something.
Well, they're definitely something. Yeah, they haven't thought of a category yet. But no, I think what I've really learned is that Minna's approach, which is not to see it as the deficit and disorder within the acronym ADHD, and not to look at it like that. Not that I particularly did anyway. Some of my best friends are ADHD. No, so many comedians are. And in fact, that was one of the reasons why Min had said, look, we should try and do something about, ADHD. And we went to see, a mate of mine was doing a stand-up slot. It was his first one at an open mic. And it was a couple of the cast of Only Fools and Horses. I did a musical of Only Fools and Horses.
All right.
We're back again in 2027, all right? Anyway, we did. So we went to see him, didn't we?
Yeah.
Do an open mic slot, and he was waiting. Two of my mates from, but one of them was his first time, and he was about six on the bill. And every person who came out went, "Hi, I'm ADHD," and then we were like, "What?" Every single comedian that came out started with that line, and he's going, "Oh, fuck, that's my set gone." He was going to do, but it did make us think, my God, it's so prevalent. And so I think that's what made us, do the podcast and come up with the title.
Yeah, I do want to stress, though, by saying I don't buy into the language of medicalisation and deficits, I don't mean to minimise any ADHD's experience at all. I really don't. For some, it is debilitating. But again, I'm going to come back to society not being set up for our wonderful brains. It's not that you are the problem and you are broken. It really isn't. I just think there's so much to be done. But dialogues, places like this are really helping to push the conversation forward. And it is my hope that one day, through all of this that all of us are doing, we co-construct something different, and that ADHD doesn't reside in a manual for mental disorders like it does now, the DSM-5 text revisions, because it's not a mental disorder. I just find it deeply offensive. That's all I just wanted to say.
It seems to have also really inspired the work that you're doing with young people. When I was looking over your website earlier on in the week, there's a lot of discussion around emotional regulation, which is another thing that gets slightly misconstrued, whether it's on social media or people talking about it. What does that mean to you, and what can you see within young people that do have neurodivergence?
So the ability to self-regulate, in a nutshell, is our ability to manage our own thoughts, our feelings and emotions and responses. And it's grossly underdeveloped in many of us. In me, particularly, the irony, as my then therapist would say, well, you know, why don't you read a page out of your own books on it, you know, as I have another meltdown.
True, I hold it in front of her like that. Read that, woman.
Yeah, our 14-year-old also, you know, the irony isn't lost on her. But again, it comes back to how we were co-regulated, how we were held emotionally as infants and children, or in my case, and I'm sure some of us here, we were never contained emotionally. So we now have nervous systems that are wired for stress and primed for stress and trauma. And it's really difficult to get out of that and to get into healthier habits. Again, I'm not using the language of maladaptive behaviours, because those maladaptive behaviours as children kept us bloody alive and safe in a sea of chaos. So yeah, that's what self-reg is. It's managing how we respond to others, how we come back to equilibrium in a state of, you know, chaos. But those children, those young adults that I work with weren't able to do that. You know, it's tough, man. But if you create an environment that is trauma informed and it recognizes that these people have come from some tough shit and I'm here to help provide a bit of safety, what happens, what I managed to create was a beautiful scenario where they looked out for each other, my students. You know, come on, man, don't do that. You know, Missy's looking after us. You know, she's got our backs. Da, da, da. And it's just beautiful. It's collaborative. It's co-constructive. And that's missing today.
Yes.
So when I go back to talking about self-reg, it can't happen without being co-regulated. And those of us that haven't been co-regulated then start to draw on ways that might prove problematic for us. And this is why your festival's so bloody gorgeous. So I walked in, didn't I? And I said, I felt peace.
Yeah.
It felt beautiful and instantly grounding and calming. And I think we need to invest more time in our curricula enabling our children and young adults to self-regulate. So like I was saying earlier on, prioritise well-being over learning, you know, in line with how the brain develops. Because if those emotional regions are being bypassed, like the brain's panic button, the amygdala, you're not going to have much hope of tapping into those executive functioning skills. That
Geography ain't going to mean much,
ain't
is
gonna
it?
mean
If
shit.
you're
No.
regulated.
No.
So, you know, make your students feel safe, and then the rest will come. If you bypass that critical element, you're not going to achieve much.
What about with parenting? Because I'm sure
Can we
there'll
get back to geography,
Can
please?
we, let's talk about geography.
Cows on the lowlands, sheep on the highlands. That's all you need to know, right?
That's your geography lesson for the day done. There'll be people certainly sat here in the tent, and there'll be people listening at home that are parents of kids that might have a diagnosis but also might not, but they can certainly recognise that emotional dysregulation where maybe the reaction to something is disproportionate, or it could be triggered by you're out in a really busy environment in a restaurant and your kid just starts flaring up. What do you do? What's the best way to help the child? Probably not that.
See that?
Probably not that.
Did you see that?
Did you see the provocation?
No, I was just
Constant.
getting some flies away. She hit me.
I was
We
getting a
witnessed
fly
it.
off you. It's
No
knowing.
flies on me, girl.
There are. There are. Knowing your child's triggers is crucial.
Yeah.
So when you said there, kind of rightly, disproportionate response, but to them it's not.
No.
So misophonia you're referring to is massive, particularly among our neurodivergent children and adults alike. And it's knowing those triggers. We've had this conversation just last Sunday. And trying to minimise them. It might be, noise defenders. It might be fidget toys. It might be avoiding the place, or, going at a time that when it's quieter or something like that. Never, ever reaching for first-line treatments, as in medications, as like, oh, my God, that's what we need. And I've got a lot of parents saying, my son's just been diagnosed, but, what can we do? The diagnostician is pushing for medication. I'm like, but what have you tried? Well, nothing yet. And I'm like, well, try some other strategies first. And I just think knowing your child's triggers, but also giving space for yourself as well, and looking after your own mental health, however you know, whatever that might look like, so that
Yeah.
you're able to contain your child emotionally.
Well, that is such a good point, because I think often we think, how can I get the child to calm down because it's easier, and then everyone, if your kid's happy, you feel happy. But you're so right that if we're not looking after ourselves, we're already on the back foot. We're depleted, we're stressed out, we're at max capacity, we don't know, you know, what to do next because we're not feeling okay. What do you individually do to make yourselves feel all right?
Gym, walking.
Fishing?
Yeah, but then I've got the idiot, haven't I? Paul, I didn't mind, honestly, Paul, I didn't. Oh, Paul, I've fallen, oh, my shingles, Paul, man. Oh. You know, but no, obviously on that. But again, the gym exercise, I know it's a cliche, but it's crucial.
Yes.
It's crucial for your, obviously for your body. I have to do it for heart rehab stuff. But,
Yeah.
But mentally, if I miss it now, I really find it, you know, disconcerting. But I didn't have Minna's traumatic upbringing, so I don't sort of float. I don't know. How can I say this without getting a clump? I'm fairly sort of balanced, really, aren't I? I don't.
Okay.
I mean, I don't get upset or angry.
Okay. But
Much.
But you've been really open about your physical health and your heart issues that you've had. So obviously you need to do certain things that keep you just feeling. And like, is there panic or anxiety that comes with that?
No, well, not really. I mean, I think Bob did. Bob had a lot of anxiety. My heart's sort of disease came about after something else I'd had, which was very life-threatening. And then I was being monitored afterwards, and they saw that my blood pressure was raised, my blood flow wasn't right, and I needed to have some stents. So in a way, for me, that treatment was just, it was quite straightforward. And I'd already had this thing to deal with that I'd overcome. The stent treatment was quite straightforward, as I say. So when Bob actually had to have his stents done, I sort of was his stent buddy, if you like, you know, and I got in touch and said, "You're going to be fine." And they got him in, and he had to have an emergency triple bypass, you know. Out came the old chainsaw. And I was like, sorry, Bob, I gave you a wrong steer there. so for me, it wasn't. But having said that, the exercise for me now is sacrosanct, and I'm not very good at just saying no. I'm not listening to anyone. That's my time, and I'm going to do it. But now I've got a very legitimate excuse to do it. I do make that time, and that gives me, as I say, not just physical sort of well-being, but definitely keeps me sane up there. But Bob did, you know, that's a shock, isn't it? You know, if you go from some idiot like me saying, yeah, you'd be fine, you'd be in and out in a day, to having a triple bypass.
Yeah.
So, and there is some, obviously, I'm sort of trivialising my experience a bit because it is your heart. And so afterwards, you're always conscious if there's any slight, you think, oh, God.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like other illnesses and diseases. It's not a slow burner. If you know, once your heart is compromised, you do think for a while, is that, you know.
Yeah.
But that's, as I say, that gradually with medication and exercise diminished for me. It was much worse for Bob because it was an emergency for him and he was suddenly incapacitated, whereas I was capacitated, if you like, you know.
And did you have that sort of, I don't know, slightly cliche but rightly so moment going through anything health-wise of, wow, this is all very precious and fragile and I want to really live life to the full even more?
Yeah, to an extent I did. But as I say, I went from this other quite traumatic experience, which was very emergency operation, and then the heart thing. So it was almost like a sort of a kind of, you know, I started to go up, you know, like that. And definitely for Bob, when he started to come out of his shell and we started going fishing together, it was in real life, you know. We started something he'd wanted me to do for ages and I hadn't done, and I thought I'd better do it quick, just in case. So, you know, that we'd been mates for years, but we'd never actually been out fishing, so we started doing that. And, you know, I know fishing's very niche and it doesn't appeal to many people, but the idea that you're out in that environment and you're actually, the world is over there then for, you know, it doesn't really matter whether I know some people just want to catch fish, but it's our excuse in a way for getting out into the most beautiful places. And that's what it's always done for me, is like, even if I'm fishing on the canal with my dad or my mates when I was a kid, but it takes you out of the world, and I've been to some very beautiful places as well. So it's definitely been, that's my escape. And then we all know the importance of getting out into nature, don't we? It's
and having a chat.
Yeah.
Just having a nice chat.
Oh, no, I'm not sure about that.
Oh.
We're blokes, I keep saying to my mates, Bob, can we just shut up? Just have some silence in the beautiful countryside.
Yeah.
And every then he go, be looking at our floats, and then Sonny will go, what's your favourite powdered drink, Paul?
Your favourite powdered drink?
Yeah.
What a great question.
I know,
I've never asked anyone that before. I might have to make a note in my pad. I like that. No, it's so important to have something that's outside of work, outside of the noise, that's just for you.
But definitely for men, it's exercise, isn't it? That's thing, really.
It's proven to, boost serotonin, endorphins. Clinical studies are always showing that it could be more potent than even antidepressants in, some regards. So, and it also creates new neurons in our hippocampus, the seat for learning and memory, which is fantastic and most necessary for ADHDers like me.
Yes. There was also...
All our guests say exercise.
Yeah.
Do.
Yeah.
It's always, some of them obviously have been like through a lot of substance abuse.
Yeah.
Sean. What's his name?
Oh, blimey.
Yeah, come on.
Ryder.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sean Ryder.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah.
The poster boy.
Exactly.
But he says,
said that
I'll get on
about
my bike, I'll get on my bike at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'll come home about 12 hours later.
Yeah, but does he, or is it not? I thought he meant a stationary.
No, he
one.
means a fucking bike.
He's going out. He's having a big cycle.
You sure?
Yeah. Yeah, he does. Yeah, no, he goes, he does about 10 hours a day. And I think, given what he went through, you need that.
It's a better option, cycling, a much better option.
Yeah.
Another thing that I found very interesting that you've talked about in various guises on the podcast, on your website, is RSD. And this is something which is perhaps, is it a comorbidity, am I right, to ADHD?
Don't use the language of co-occurring.
Get rid of that. Okay, co-recurring?
Occurring.
So this is something that can come along for the ride with ADHD.
Yeah, but it's not exclusive to ADHD, and apologies, everyone. But again, I find this is ADHD only. It's not. It's something that can affect any one of us. Okay, it may be disproportionately those of us who have experienced trauma in childhood, adulthood, whatever, but it's not exclusive to ADHD, and it does stem from a difficulty in regulating our emotions. So, yeah.
So for anyone who's not heard that term RSD,
can you sensitivity dysphoria. Well, who probably experiences RSD here? Quite a few,
for sure.
So we're just
Get over it. What's the matter with you?
Yeah, that. Just being extra sensitive to what we might perceive as criticism or hostility. It might not even be real. It might be in our minds, but the pain we experience is quite visceral. And I think you might have been referring to the episode with Denise Welsh.
Yes.
Where I got upset because I bought 2 portions of chips for my daughter on holiday, but knowing she wouldn't get lunch for another 6-7 hours. And they all cussed me because I got too many chips and I had a breakdown, got physically sick. And
Chipgate, we call
didn't
it.
surface for a couple of days.
We don't want 2 bags of chips here. No, but we don't want them. Not here. Oh, fuck that.
But basically.
You disappeared for a day.
I did. I got quite ill and my stomach went up the spout and I was in tears and woe is me. But in that moment, I mean, it is because you just think everyone hates you and you're rubbish and useless and you're sensitive to people's responses and behaviours. And it is tough. It is. But again, that comes from the emotion regulation difficulty. That's to be worked on. It's not every ADHD also has RSD.
Right, Minna, so if you know that you're in that or that's happening, again, for anyone that's felt that or has been through it recently, or you know you're in a situation where that could be triggered, what would you do, or what would you advise someone could do to just maybe shift the perspective or get themselves feeling a little bit better about the scenario they're in?
I organised a little family meeting in the airport on the way home, just saying, look, I am very sensitive. I am sorry. I might have, looked like I was overreacting to you, but I did get upset. Yeah, and it's only because I care. And just talking about why you are the way you are sometimes, and also maybe, stock responses and things not to do or say, like to have a go at me and shout at me even more, because it's like pouring fuel on the fire in that moment. But everyone is different and they're affected differently. They've got different triggers. So I'm always going to come back to knowing your own triggers, being self-aware and reflective and honest enough to go, okay, this is how I am. What can I do about it? And how can those around me help me to make some changes that will benefit all of us? Because at the end, if you don't, you are going to be sabotaging and undermining your relationships with these people who are probably very important to you as well. So, yeah.
Only probably.
You ain't completely innocent, So, yeah.
One thing that people are endlessly fascinated about is the fact that you don't live together. Is that still stands? Yeah, you don't. Yeah, and
when
that
we
works
say
for
that
you.
to married people, they all go, oh.
Yeah, I used to
Pure
fight.
jealousy.
Yeah, I used to like, oh, babe, I don't even have a T-shirt or a toothbrush in your house. And I'm like, fuck. I can't envisage sleeping next to someone. Also, this is a very real thing. Like, I am a sensory seeking person, and I mean, only last night, innit, babe? He had the Wimbledon on and I had the music on. He's like, which one do you want to turn off? I went, none. So the telly's on, the music's on.
See?
Or at night, all my lights are on, the radio stays on.
I gotta get out of there.
I don't even draw the curtains, and he and my daughter, our daughter, are the opposite. So it works well for all of us.
Yeah.
So what you'll do, like a day in someone's house, and
No,
then
we're
you...
always, it's
In fact, I was
very
thinking,
close.
it's like been months and months and months I haven't been in your gaff.
Well, you're welcome anytime,
No,
darling.
I'm not welcome. I never feel welcome in it, to be honest.
I love it, but why be conventional if it doesn't suit
so
you?
conventional.
Yeah.
Boring.
Boring. Yeah,
You
you've
know, I
got
was
to find what
gonna-
works for you.
I'm not trying to change the subject because we'll happily talk about that all day long. But one thing I has come up quite a lot on the pod with our guests is pretty well all of them. Only very few who've wanted to rid themselves of ADHD.
Yeah, only two chose to get rid, right? Gemma Stiles and
Simon Day.
Lucy Beaumont, that hasn't aired yet.
And Simon Day.
And Simon
Yeah,
Day.
so
And what were their reasons? Because that's really interesting. That a lot
Life's
of
been
people
too much of a struggle.
Right.
Really, really, really difficult, especially for Simon. He ended up in
Simon ended up in
youth offending.
Forstall,
Yeah.
and I think with him, he's brilliant. He's got a brilliant mind, and he's so funny, and he functioned great in the Fast Show because we could contain him a bit. But
there was an outlet for his
and it was an
mind,
outlet for his mind. But when that's not there, he spins out of control, and he hates himself for it. So he found it very difficult. He finds it difficult, and he has to deal with a lot. But he's doing brilliantly. But that's when you see the flip side. Some people with ADHD have been successful. They've found a path and they can flourish in that path. But if you don't find that path, so many people end up, we call it, as I'm sure you all know the phrase, the school to prison pipeline. And unless you find a way out, or you're helped and contained and understood, and also it's kind of weird. Some people really liked having the label because it helped them understand their behaviour or the trajectory that their life are taking. Some people don't want the label, and again, there's a split. But yeah, I mean, there will be most people who have done well despite a lot of problems and trauma and misery and difficult times. If they found a path, they keep it. But if you go down a different road, I'm sure you don't want to
Yeah.
don't want to keep it at all.
That's what I think is very interesting with if you do seek a diagnosis. I've got many friends who have done that later in life, women, and there has been a sense of liberation. Like, I understand myself, and also I don't have to. Actually, it's the self-loathing thing. Hate myself because I don't know why. Like, one of my friends had a real issue with keeping time, and there was just no way that she could keep on top of it. She tried so many different techniques and tactics, and after her diagnosis, she stopped hating herself because she was like, I get it. I get myself. So it might not work for everybody, but for some people, it can be a real gateway to getting maybe the right help they need or just understanding themselves.
I think particularly important for children's diagnosis because of the setup of our education system. It's crushing our neurodivergent children. Yes, there are some pockets of excellent practice, I know that, but I also get the letters pretty much daily from parents begging for help because their child's again been shunted into bloody detention, isolation, for forgetting equipment, forgetting homework, daydreaming, and I'm sick of it. It's just so discriminatory. So having that diagnosis, can be a gateway, like you said, for greater support, greater understanding, and whatever that needs to look like for that particular child. And schools have a legal duty under the Equality Act 2010 to provide those reasonable adjustments. So, yeah.
And it's also a subject that we're still in real time learning about collectively. So it's going to keep changing. And that's why it's important to have podcasts like yours where in real time, we're getting the information, you're talking to people that are getting diagnosis and working out different ways and methods to deal with it, and that's helpful for everybody.
Yeah, I think it's important we listen to each other and we're not into these little groups that have split off and they're really hostile to one another. Well, why do you have, inverted commas above disorder and the D? Because I don't believe it is. That's just my belief. That's how I view it. I know it's difficult for some. I don't think it's a disease. Some still call it, it's a disease about ADHD. Yes, it's a bloody difference. So take these things on board, formulate your own opinions that are informed, evidence-backed, and I just hope we're moving on from this spot.
Yeah.
I have to give Minna a bit of a round of applause because recently she's started a campaign, actually, over the last 2 years, but recently came to fruition because Ofsted had included in their prevent training the phrase that their practitioners should look out.
Oh, don't open that up.
No, you need to talk about it. You need to talk about it because it's come to a successful conclusion.
Okay, in a very tiny, quick nutshell, basically, Ofsted in its prevent safeguarding guidance was, quote unquote, labelling children and young people with autism as likely extremists because of their propensity to develop special interests and because of their language and communication difficulties, right? Again, I'm condensing it because it's been bloody long and painful. They denied it, they obfuscated, I organised a campaign, got some celebs on board, loads of allies, and we handed in a letter to 10 Downing Street. Angela Rayner was on board, loads of other MPs, Lords, and they did remove the wording, they did, but the same day Martin Oliver said that it's preposterous.
Sir Martin.
And I never do the sir. Why did you have to point out the sir? Said, ridiculous. If only, she reached out to us, it could have all been sorted out. We've never said such a thing. So I went online and said, this is all the correspondence, him to me, saying, sorry, it's staying because it is a real threat and we have to acknowledge it for safeguarding purposes. All the parliamentary questions I drafted for these high profilers, all of it, it was all denied, but it got removed basically. But then The Guardian reported on it on the 5th of July and made it all about Chris Packham, who's just a babe, he's a proper star. Yeah. But I kicked off saying, look, man, I instigated all of this. I've been, doing it for the 2 years.
Come on, Minna.
Yep.
Sort it out, and they did rectify and put my name in there.
Good.
To their credit. So, but yeah.
I love that.
But it was extraordinary. I mean, I know Ofsted are not going to go, yeah, thank you, Minna. Yeah, we were wrong. They said, it was never in the manual and we've taken it out.
Oh.
And
How did you manage that?
Of
Yeah.
everything, but we do have to stand up for our neurodivergent children. They're not a threat to
No,
anybody.
no.
They're grossly
No.
misunderstood.
Yeah.
And, it just breaks my heart. So we have to fight fearlessly for them.
Yeah, well, it's a beautiful thing that you're doing. And also collectively, I absolutely love the podcast. And what a brilliant career pivot for you at this point. I love it. Who thought you'd do an ADHD podcast?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a strange twists and turns life takes. Isn't it?
It's brilliant. And it's highly entertaining as well as massively
thank you.
important and educational. Before we wrap up, I would love to ask you both, where is your happy place? Paul, let's start with you.
Well, I mean, I suppose on the riverbank,
Yeah.
I would say, I get lost in that world, it's, I would say that, yeah.
Lovely. What about you, Dr Minna?
Somewhere in a nice open field or the gym.
A gin.
No!
Gym with an M. It's a dry festival. No gym here, sadly. Well, look, thank you so much for being at the Happy Place Festival. I hope you have a lovely time walking around and enjoying the whole thing. Please give it up for Dr Minna
Thank
and
you
Paul
very much.
Whitehouse.